Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
Hey guys, we're back for another Locked On Falcons, Locked On Sports Atlanta postcast here on Locked On Sports Atlanta's YouTube channel. Of course, I am your host, Aaron Freeman of Locked On Falcons, joined as usual by Jarvis Davis, one of many hosts on the Locked On Sports Atlanta feed. You can hear him every day with Tanitra Batista on ATL Day Ones on that podcast feed. And unfortunately, we are coming here today to talk about a Falcons loss. They dropped this one to the Bengals 35-17. This, as I was telling Jarvis before we recorded, you asked me 2 months ago, this would have been probably the game I would have predicted in this matchup, but based off of how the Falcons had played the first 6 games of the season, we kind of went into this thing thinking that they would keep it a little bit closer in this one. But let's sort of start today talking about the struggles of that Falcons defense, getting down into a big hole early. It's not the first time we've seen this team fall into a 3-score deficit early in a game, on a road game, but unfortunately they weren't able to really climb out of it, and they just seemed to get gashed early by that Bengals passing attack, with Jamar Chase going for a big day, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, Tyler Boyd having 155 yards, a touchdown, Tee Higgins adding to the mix with 93 yards, Hayden Hurst having 6 catches for 48 yards as well, and so Joe Burrow, monster today, 481 yards passing, 34 for 42, 3 touchdowns, really taking advantage of the injuries in the Falcons secondary. No Casey Hayward, no D. Alford. AJ Terrell went down, I think, on the second series of the game. They had Jalen Hawkins go down later in the game. So very vulnerable Falcons secondary, and it showed.
You know what? And that put a guy like DNP's defensive coordinator in a pretty precarious situation, because at the end of the day, you can't do what you normally do, right? Because you have guys in there that you don't necessarily trust. Anytime you see a practice squad guy, a guy who's elevated from the practice squad, and Cornell Armstrong, in there against Jamar Chase almost every time he's catching the ball, that should tell you something, right? It's like, that means the Falcons are in trouble. If you have Cornell Armstrong guarding their best wide receiver and probably one of the best youngest wide receivers in the entirety of the NFL, that is a problem, and you're in for a long day. And I think that's what, eventually hurt the Falcons a lot. And I think only time you really saw the guys, kind of get some type of momentum is when they were able to get home and sack Joe Burrow 3 times. They ended up getting up 3 sacks on him, getting sacked him 3 times. So, which is what, coming into this game, we thought that they would be able to do, right? Because the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line, they don't run block that well, and they don't protect Joe that well. But when you have a secondary as depleted as the Falcons were, like I said, practice squad player guarding Jamar Chase, make sure you keep that in your mind as we go through this entire Falcons postcast, because that is almost nothing you can do about it when it comes to that particular piece. But I think there was just a little bit of a glimmer of light that they were able to take advantage of that porous offensive line, because we know that was something that was talked about as the Falcons may be able to take advantage of. You like to see that, but it's like Dean Pease was in a really bad situation today, and I don't see any defensive coordinator in the NFL that would probably be able to figure that bad boy out. And look, we saw this last week against San Francisco, and we were talking about, like, hey man, you got to deal with it. Well, the Falcons got to deal with it this week, because they got beat by the injury bug. San Francisco had a lot of injuries up front and in the back end of their defense, and it showed. And the Falcons were able to take advantage of that. Now, Falcons got bit by the injury bug, and Cincinnati was able to take advantage of it in a very, very demeaning way.
Yeah. I think the first series was like, 3-4 plays, ended with a 60-yard touchdown.
It happened so fast, man.
Chase.
I couldn't even get anything to drink, man. Like, I ain't even get anything to drink. I was like, yeah, I'm going to give me a little beverage, a little brown liquor a little bit, sit back and watch the Falcons do their thing. Dude, I never went to the refrigerator, because if I would have got up and turned around, it would probably been another score. Like, goodness gracious.
Yeah. Look, the Falcons play that bend but don't break style of defense, and the key to that style of defense is you can't give up big plays, and they got
Exactly.
absolutely shredded by big plays in this game. I think a lot of that's owed to the issues in the secondary, and we know this is what the Bengals offense was known for last year, being one of the most explosive offenses in the league. They
Yes,
didn't look
indeed.
like it for the early part of the season, but it seems like, at least based off of this game, and again, how much can you put stock into it with the Falcons injuries, but they look like they're back to being the old Bengals of old, and so that's good for them. Not so good for the Falcons. I will give the defense some credit. They did play much better in the second half. It seemed like they
Right.
made some adjustments. Probably some of that was owed to Chase being a little nicked up there
Yeah.
with an injury right before the halftime. But that was too little, too late, and uh, even though they got the stops to get the team back into the game, it really
They
was
did.
about the offense not being able to really do the things that they had done in previous matchups against the Rams and Bucks, where they were able to get down. And so we'll continue today's postcast talking about those offensive struggles. But Jarvis, it seemed like the Falcons, they got off to a slow start. Bengals dominated the first quarter, but the second quarter really was owned by the Falcons.
Right.
And they got back into it. They had a long drive that was capped off with Tyler Algiel's first touchdown of the season. I think it was like a 10-play drive to get back on the board, 7-21. Then they had a big play of their own, a busted coverage by our good buddy Eli Apple, allowed Damiere Byrd to go deep for a
Yes.
75-yard touchdown. We
I
finally got
always
that.
count on him, Eli. Yes.
Marcus Mariota deep ball finally connected to Damiere Byrd for 75-yard touchdown. It was a 10-second drive there in the final minute. Then the Falcons were able to get a quick 3-and-out, a big punt return by Avery Williams, 57 yards, set up Younghoe Koo in the closing seconds. So the Falcons got like 10 points in like less than a minute at the end of the
Right.
half, got the ball back. You felt like, okay, they can take this momentum and get back into this game, get a couple of scores, and this could be a game. But then basically started out the third quarter with a bunch of 3-and-outs, really couldn't get this offense going. And we're back to having that conversation about this run heavy offense having that that missing element with the passing attack. You have Drake London, you have Kyle Pitts. Very, very quiet days for both of those guys. Drake London had 1 catch for 9 yards. Kyle Pitts had 3 catches for 9 yards. Basically outside of Damiere Byrd catch and a couple of catches from Olamide Zaccheaus, this offense could not move the ball really at all in the air. Mariota finishes 8 for 13 with 124 yards, was sacked 3 times. We know the Bengals, they said a stat late in the game. The Bengals haven't given up a touchdown in the second halves of any game so far this season. We know that they made their name last January with their sort of late game adjustments against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. So it looked like they made adjustments and tightened things up. What, from your eyes, what went wrong for this Falcons offense today?
I think that a lot of, and this is something that has been an issue throughout this entire season, and I think that we talked about it ad nauseum, is that Marcus Mariota does not give guys a chance to catch the football. When you have guys who look like they can play power forward or small forward on an NBA basketball team, and the times where you just don't give them opportunities to make plays, it's consistent, right? That's the thing that has been consistent when Marcus Mariota throwing the football throughout this entire season. Even I can go and point out some plays last week when he got Offensive Player of the Week where he didn't give his guys a chance to catch the football, and you saw that. You had guys like Hilton coming up and making breakups on the plays when all he had to do was just throw it either in front of a Kyle Pitts so he can go out there and and try to run up underneath it, or he can just, if you want to do the whole jump ball type situation, you throw it up so he can give him a chance to catch it, and he just did not do that. He had the opportunity to do it in the end zone. Same scenario. He threw it to a point where a defender had an opportunity to knock it down. Now they end up getting the penalty with Cam Sample, but you just don't. It's just situations where every time there's an opportunity to get the rock to Kyle Pitts or Drake London, you just don't give those guys opportunities. And I think that when you put the situation where the Falcons have to pass the football, This is what you're gonna get consistently with number 1, sitting there, quarterback one, Marcus Mariota sitting up under center because he just isn't comfortable throwing the football. He can't sit back and say, okay, here's my first read. Okay, not there. Second read. Okay, not there. All right, I'm gonna hit my check down. He can't do that. He just doesn't look comfortable doing it. And when he had time to throw the football, he could not find a wide receiver. And if he couldn't find a wide receiver, he was hesitant about taking off with it, or even just throwing the football away to go to the next down. It's just in certain situations, you put Marcus Mariota in certain situations, the dude isn't just comfortable. And I think that kind of is a summation of why this offense has struggled at times throughout the season when they're not running the football.
Yeah. So it seems like we're back to where we were earlier in the year, questioning, the quarterback and
of course,
his ability to win with his arm after a really solid week against the 49ers. So, things I don't want to say things went back to normal because that's not a fair way of describing it, but it did feel like this was what, a lot of the people skeptical of the Falcons going into this season were expecting from this team. So that's a tough look given all the momentum. They'll have to sort of regroup next week. They have a very winnable game against Carolina, although they look pretty tough against the Bucs.
PJ Walker out here cooking. He got a recipe book up there in Carolina, man.
Out playing Tom Brady and whatnot. Right. So, them keeping the Bucs to 3 points or something like that.
Man.
That's going to be a tough challenge for this offense to sort of respond if they can get back to running the football, and hopefully the defense won't find themselves in a hole against PJ Walker like they did today against Joe Burrow. But we'll sort of see if the Falcons can recover from this game. Just a tough game for the Falcons. You kind of knew this was the formula to beat this team. You get up early and you make them have to throw to win. You make them have to play not the style of football that they want to play. And, the Rams couldn't sort of do that. The Bucs really couldn't completely do that, but the Bengals were the team that were able to do that. So, this is not some deep revelation or anything like that from, how you want to play this Falcon football team. And obviously we'll have you guys covered all week long here on Locked On Falcons with myself. Find me at Twitter at FalcFans, Jarvis at JarvisD90 on Twitter, all week long on ATL Day Ones, along with Tanitra and Mark Zino and John Chuckery. Jarvis, any parting words you want to say to the folks before we duck out of here? All right, that says it all.
That's all I got, man.
We figured they would get one of these losses. We were hoping it wouldn't be.
We knew it was coming. Yeah, we knew it was coming, man.
Yeah, so hopefully they'll respond, and we'll see. So we'll have you guys covered all week long here. Locked On Falcons, covering this Falcons game, of course. Other things going on in Atlanta sports: the Hawks, Bulldogs. Had a week off, but what they're geared up for. So we'll keep you locked here on Locked On Sports Atlanta and Locked On Falcons. Really, guys, appreciate it. Hopefully we'll have some more positive things to say after next week's postcast against those pesky Carolina Panthers.